Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Happy second snow day in a row. I'm coming at you from Founders Hollow. Beautiful Founders Hollow. Let's let it adjust there. This is the chapel. Founders Hollow is, of course, our retreat house upstate. We hope to get you guys up here pretty soon as this COVID thing passes. But it's an absolutely beautiful day up here, and the beautiful snow falling over the lake back there. You actually can't even see the lake. It's right down on the bottom. It's all covered by water right now. Down below is the fire pit. You can see it kind of in the corner there. I'll move it over. Can you see the fire pit? I'll give you a little tour around here. All right. Got our fire pits down there. This is the lake. You can see a little bit of the water back there, but it's absolutely beautiful. It's blizzard up here. Little quick tour of the chapel. We got a beautiful icon here. Our Lady of Cana, very important to us, but here's the altar and the cross. But of course, most importantly, we have the Blessed Sacrament right there in the tabernacle. Blessed Chaminades over there. It's a really cool, beautiful place to pray. I love praying here. I hope to get you guys up here pretty soon. All right. Thanks so much to Mr. Moran yesterday. Did a great job. Two of my classes, you guys are going to get me today for Spanish and for Scripture. I'm so sorry. All right, but got a nice lesson prepared for you guys doing King Solomon, and eventually we're going to get to the split of the kingdom of Israel. All right, so let's take a look. So Mr. Moran did a great job yesterday talking about David's repentance, right? So David committed horrible sins, right? He broke 4 commandments. The fifth, thou shalt not murder. He murdered the wife of Uriah. He murdered Uriah, right? Committed adultery with Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah. He coveted his neighbor's wife by desiring Bathsheba. Such a creepy scene anyway. He's in his palace and he sees her bathing on the roof of her house. Okay, a little weird. To break the 9th commandment, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. And then he also broke the 8th commandment, thou shalt not bear false witness, when he was trying to cover up his crimes, right? So he was just layering it on. 4 major commandments. This is God's anointed king. And he commits that kind of horrible sin, those kinds of really serious sins. But what, like Mr. Moran said, what made David a great king? What made him a great saint? What makes him an ancestor of Jesus Christ? Is that what he does right here? David repents. David repents and turns back to the Lord. And he says, I have sinned. And God recognizes his forgiveness and says he will remove the sin from him, meaning that he has forgiven him. But there's still going to be some consequence. We saw that before. The third consequence is going to be that the child of Bathsheba and King David, right, the one that they had, when they were committed adultery the first time, that child's going to die. But eventually Bathsheba marries King David, and they have a second son named King Solomon, and he's going to be the king once David dies. All right, once David dies. So let's keep going. Let's take along here. All right. King Solomon, very cool. So, Solomon is a young kid when he becomes king, really young guy, all right? So, what happens? Solomon allied himself by marriage with Pharaoh, king of Egypt. All right, fine. So, he's marrying an Egyptian princess who is now the queen of Israel. But, take a look down here. Pharaoh, he married the daughter of Pharaoh and brought her to the city of David, which is, of course, Jerusalem, until he should finish building his own house and the house of the Lord, right? So Solomon is building the temple for God, just as God said that he would. Remember, David wanted to build a house. Lord, let me build a house for you. I'm in a house of cedar, but God is in a tent. And God says to him, no. So, David, I will be the one to build a house for you. Literally, I will give you a kingdom. I will give you a kingdom that never ends. One of your descendants will be the Messiah, the one to be the king forever. Jesus, of course, right? So, but God did say that David's son, Solomon, would be the one to build that temple in the end. All right, so Solomon is building this temple, and he loves the Lord. This is the verse 3 there. Love the Lord and walking with him in his statutes, just as David, his father, has done, right? So Solomon, we're seeing, is a good king, all right? So now Solomon goes up to Gibeon to offer a sacrifice there. And it says here, Solomon offered thousands of burnt offerings. In Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream at night, and God said, whatever you ask, I shall give you. All right, some of you. If God appeared to you and said, I will give you whatever you want, anything, God, this is God Almighty, this isn't a genie, this is like God who's saying, I will give you whatever you want, and you're already the king of Israel, think of what you could ask for. Like, so many possibilities. It's amazing, right? But God says, whatever you want, I will ask you. And Solomon said, You've shown great kindness to your servant David, my father, because he walked before you with fidelity and justice and an upright heart. And you have continued this great kindness toward him today, giving him a son, meaning me, to sit upon his throne. Now, Lord my God, you have made me your servant, king to succeed David, my father. Now I'm the king, but I'm a mere youth, and I don't know how to act. That's an honest person, right? I'm too young. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to act, right? Lord, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So he says, King Solomon says to God, I, your servant among the people you have chosen, to govern a people so vast it can't be numbered. This is number 9, right? Verse 9 down here. Give your servant, therefore, a listening heart to judge your people and to distinguish between good and evil. For who is able to give judgment for the people this vast as yours? Right? What does Solomon ask for? He asks for wisdom. Lord, teach me what I am supposed to do. A lot of people know a lot of things. Think about this. We know a lot of really smart people. Maybe even some people like in government or like people like that. They may know a lot of things, but are they wise? Do they know what to do? Do they know how to act given all the things they know? They may be smart, but are they wise? Do they know how to act? And wisdom is one of those gifts that comes with age, right? There's a reason you go to your grandparents for advice, right? They've lived a long enough time to know how things kind of are, right? And how to kind of help you figure out what is the right thing to do. And so Solomon asked for this gift instead of all of the other things that he could have asked for. And God is pleased by this request. So this is verse 10 up here. So God said to him, because you asked for wisdom, you didn't ask for a long life or riches or to me to destroy your enemies, but you asked for discernment to know what is right. God said, now I do grant as you request. So Solomon receives wisdom, but he also receives riches and a long life, right? He's going to give him all the things that he didn't ask for because he asked for the right thing. We see that Solomon was already wise, even as a young kid. We're going to see he's going to be a great king. Mostly, we're going to see in a second. All right, so let's see how this wisdom shakes out for Solomon. So he wakes up. This was a dream, right? And he offers more offerings to the Lord. Take a look at verse 16. Solomon's listening heart. I love this story. Great story. All right. This story, guys, is known as the test of the two mothers. The test of the two mothers. So later, 2 prostitutes came to the king and stood before him. One woman said, by your leave, my lord, this woman and I live in the same house, and I gave birth in the house while she was present. On the 3rd day after I gave birth, this woman also gave birth, and we were alone. No one else was in the house with us. Only the 2 of us were there. This woman, right? This woman also gave birth. We were alone, and no one else was in the house. This woman's son died during the night while she lay on top of him. So, in the middle of the night, she got up and took my son from my side as I was sleeping. Then she laid him in her bosom and laid her dead son in my bosom. I rose in the morning to nurse my son, and he was dead. But when I examined him in the morning light, it was not the son I had born. The other woman answered, no, the living one is my son, the dead one is yours. All right, that's kind of a crazy story. So what happens? 2 women give birth. They both have infants. One of the infants dies. Mom crushes him. All right? Kind of red. All right? So mom says, all right, let's swap the babies while the other mama is sleeping. Mom of the alive baby wakes up. She has dead baby in arm. That's not right. So she looks and goes, that's not my son. All right? And so they go back and forth, and now they're having an argument, and they need to go to the king to figure out the wise King Solomon, to figure out the details here. So, no, the dead one's yours, the live one is mine. They went back and forth, back and forth. The king said to them, one woman claims this living one is my son, the dead one is yours. The other answers, no, the dead one is your son, the living one is mine. The king continued, get me a sword. Okay, all right, so that's kind of nuts. Get me a sword? What? Right? When they brought the sword to the king, he said, cut the living child in 2 and give half to the one woman and half to the other. The woman whose son was alive, because she was stirred with compassion for her son, said to the king, please, my lord, give her the living baby. Do not kill it. But the other said, it shall be neither mine nor yours. Cut it in 2. Okay. All right. So the king is obviously, he's joking here, or he's he's pulling a trick, right? He's showing his wisdom. He's like, give me a sword, I'm going to cut this baby in two. He knows that the woman who's the real mother is going to say, no, don't cut the baby in half, right? I don't care, give it to her, right? As long as you don't kill him. Give the baby to her as long as you don't kill him. Now the other mother's like, forget that, just cut it in half. If she can't have a child, I can't. If I can't have a child, she can't have one either, right? She's being jealous. Remember we talked about this before. The idea that jealousy destroys, right? We get jealous and we want it, and we start gossiping. We start destroying people's reputations, right? All these things that happen as a result of jealousy. We're seeing this right here. But King Solomon recognizes that the real mother would never let the child be cut in half, obviously, and he gives the child to the real mother. Now look at this, verse 28. When all Israel heard the judgment the king had given, they were in awe of him, meaning they couldn't believe him, right? Because they saw that the king had in him the wisdom of God and right judgment. All right. Solomon's wisdom is going to be so famous in the world. If you take a look here at this picture here, it's the Queen of Sheba. She's a foreign queen from Africa, and she comes and brings gifts to Solomon. Right? Solomon is very extraordinarily rich in wisdom and in money, and we're seeing that people all over the world are coming to know of the wisdom and the love of God that he showed to Solomon. Pretty cool. But Solomon messes up pretty bad. So how does Solomon? The end of King Solomon's reign. What does he do? All right. So Solomon loved many foreign women. Watch out. Watch out. Tricky women here. Not all women. I'm just kidding. But in this case, got some bad things doing to Solomon here. All right. So he loved many women besides the daughter of Pharaoh, besides the queen. So he got Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonites, Hittites, all these foreign tribes, right? Remember those Philistines we were talking about? All those foreign tribes that lived in the Canaan, the enemies of Israel, right? He's loving all those women too, right? But God warned him, don't do this. You're not going to like this because they are going to turn your heart against me, right? These women are going to change your mind about how to live. You're going to change their mind about what is the right way to live, all right? So they all begin to turn his heart. So Solomon here begins to follow other gods. Okay, biggest sin you can commit in the Bible, obviously, is idolatry. You can't be doing this. This is not acceptable, period, at all. Right? So Solomon is committing the sin of idolatry. So what happens to him? The Lord becomes angry with Solomon, obviously, because he had warned him not to do this. Don't follow your wives, these other wives. Do not follow their gods, all right? And he does it anyway. It's not that he doesn't love God the same way that his father David had loved him, right? David was a sinner, but he didn't commit idolatry. So what's going to be the consequence? So you see it right here. Go back in a second. So, I will surely tear the kingdom away from you and give it to your servant. All right? So, what's going to happen? When God is, but I will not do this during your lifetime for the sake of David your father. I will tear it away from your son's hands, nor will I tear away the whole kingdom. I'll give your son only one tribe for the sake of David my servant and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen. All right. He's promised David that his kingdom, remember that I will build a house for you, is going to last forever. We're going to see that in a second. But he said, because David was such a holy and righteous king, you, Solomon, will get to live because you're his son. But your son, when he becomes king, is going to have the kingdom torn away from him. All right? And he's not going to rule with the wisdom that you rule with. Right? We're going to see this is going to be the tribe of Judah and also Benjamin. Judah and Benjamin together will stay loyal to David's son and David's grandson, David's son Solomon, and then Solomon's son. All right? They'll remain loyal to God, and they'll be the true kingdom of Israel, the true kingdom of Judah. We're going to see this in a second. The true tribe of Israel altogether is going to be following David's line. Very important. If you take a look at the Catholic Faith Fact right there, it tells us that the book of Proverbs, you've probably heard this book, is a book of it has the collection of wise sayings of Solomon. It's supposed to be all the wise things that Solomon said. They were recorded and handed down to us as Holy Scripture in the book of Proverbs. So you guys want to make sure you get that note down there. Okay? So what happens in the end? So we're going to see here the consequences. Right? Solomon's on the right track, but he's going to let the power and money go to his head, and he loses sight of what is right. Who is the rightful king of Israel? God. Solomon begins to marry foreign women from nations the Lord has permitted, and he's going to allow these wives to build altars to their fake gods, and he's going to start to follow these fake gods instead of the Lord. Obviously, idolatry is going to be a huge problem. So as a result of the unfaithfulness of Solomon, the Lord is going to take the kingdom away. But God is still pleased with David, and he will not rip it away from Solomon during Solomon's lifetime, but from Solomon's son. And he will allow the son to rule over only one tribe, two tribes, Judah and Benjamin, which is a tiny tribe, but we'll see that later. All right? So that's what we got there. Guys, this is the end of chapter 6. All right? Yes, chapter 6, kingdom established. And now we're going to make it into chapter 7, kingdom divided. Your teachers probably gave you, I did, I'm sure Moran did, gave you your notes. They're down. You can put them into schools. You maybe take a second right now to download those and to bring them into Notability for you to keep working. All right? So crossing over, section 69 into chapter 7, the kingdom is divided. All right? If you take a look at this chart right here on the left, you're going to see it's a list of all the kings of Israel and all the kings of Judah leading up to their destruction, leading up to the time when they are captured and destroyed. A great, great horror in all of Israel. We're going to see the first king of the kingdom of Judah, David's kingdom, the good kingdom, is going to be King Rehoboam. All right, King Rehoboam is the son of Solomon, the grandson of David. The kingdom of Judah on the right here is going to be the one that is the loyal, faithful tribe, the loyal, faithful kingdom. Kingdom of Israel on the left-hand side, Jeroboam the first is going to be the first king of Israel. They will all have wicked kings. They will be destroyed quickly, all right, because they do not follow the Lord. Now what happens? How does this happen? So the kingdom splits. So Rehoboam is now king of Israel. Solomon dies. His son Rehoboam becomes king. Helpful way to remember this is a few different ones. R, Rehoboam. Rehoboam is right. That's one way I like to say it. Also R and S. We're going to see that in a second, all right? So Rehoboam goes down, and all the elders of Israel come up to make him king. All right, pretty good. So now, Jeroboam was King Solomon's military general, all right? He was his advisor. He was a really close friend of Solomon, all right? Close friend of Solomon, who goes to the new king, King Rehoboam, and says, listen, your father Solomon put a heavy yoke on us, right? He made us pay a lot of taxes. Can you please lower them for us, and we will follow you faithfully. That's what Jeroboam says to King Rehoboam, all right? If you lower the taxes, we will follow you faithfully. Now, Rehoboam says, all right, I need 3 days to think about this. So, Rehoboam is Solomon's son. He's the king of Judah, the king of the southern kingdom, all right? So, RS, Rehoboam, southern, Judah's kingdom, the kingdom of Judah. Remember, Judah is the one who gets the blessing all the way back, right? Joseph and the 12 brothers. Right, Joseph and his 12 brothers, he gets the blessing, messianic blessing all the way down. We're up to David gets the messianic blessing, I will build a house for you. Solomon, now we're up to Rehoboam. Rehoboam, king of Judah, is going to be the one who has the priestly blessing, who has the messianic blessing. Keep that in mind, all right? So, King Rehoboam does exactly what you're not supposed to do, all right? So he gets advice from two groups of people. The first one is his elders, the wise people in your life, the people who are like, hey, I care about you. I want you to do right. What should I do? Is what King Rehoboam says to the elders. And they say, all right, here's the deal. Elderly advice. Do exactly what they ask for. Give them a favorable answer. If you do that, they'll be your servants forever. That's verse 7 right there. Meaning if you do that, if you lower the taxes, they're going to love you. They're going to follow you. All right, fine. That's the advice, right? But I like the money or whatever. Goes to his friends. King Rehoboam goes to his young men, the friends, right? And says, what should I do? And his boys are like, yo, raise those taxes, right? Keep them up. You're going to be a man, all right? You're going to prove to them that you're the king. Daddy's dead. New boss in town, all right? This is what he says. This is what you must say to the people. Your father made our yoke heavy. You lighten it for us, right? I'm sorry. This is what you must say to them. My little finger, my pinky, right? I love this line. My little finger is thicker than my father's loins, right? He's saying that my father was like so weak, right? But I am a manly man is what he's saying, right? And I'm going to double the work here. I'm going to make it even heavier for you. Look at this verse here. My father beat you with whips, but I will beat you with scorpions. Whoa, okay, Rehoboam. You need to take a deep breath, kid, right? So Jeroboam and the whole people come back to King Rehoboam the third day and said, all right, what's the deal? What's your advice? Right? He spoke to them as the young men advised. My father made your yoke heavy, but I will make it heavier. Right? So at this, the king did not listen to the people. Right? He was not wise like his father was. He did not follow the Lord and he did not follow the people. Right? When all of Israel saw that the king did not listen to them, the people answered the king, look at this. What is our share in David? Do we have no heritage with the son of Jesse? To your tents, Israel. Now look to your own house, David. What just happened? The other tribes are now rebelling against the house of Judah, against the house of David, right? David and his grandson, now King Rehoboam. And they said, we don't want to, this isn't the king we want, right? And they go away, and the kingdom is now split. We're seeing that the consequence of King Solomon's sin is happening right here with his son Rehoboam, right? So King Rehoboam, right, is starting to go to battle. He wants to figure this out. Jeroboam goes to battle with him, right? But in the end, the king will be split into two kingdoms. There'll be the kingdom of Israel, which is the name of the northern kingdom made up of 10 tribes. Its capital city will be in Samaria, and the first king will be the general Jeroboam, first king of Israel, the bad kingdom. All right? Judah is the name of the southern kingdom made up of the tribes of Judah and Benjamin. Its capital city is Jerusalem. Its kingship is the line of David, okay? Its kingship is the line of David, meaning it's going to be the Messianic kingdom. It's the kingdom that's important, right? Not the rebel kingdom of Israel, all right? So now they go to war. We're going to see this about divine approval, right? God says, enough violence. Brothers cannot fight against brothers, is what they're saying. Right? Enough of this war. So God approves, basically, or he allows it to happen at least, that the kingdom is split. But as soon as Jeroboam is now king of this rebel Israel kingdom, he realizes he needs a temple. The temple's in Jerusalem, which is the capital of Judah, that lower kingdom, where Rehoboam is. The people of Israel can't go down into the southern kingdom to worship there because it's not their kingdom anymore. Right? But the real temple has the Ark of the Covenant is in Jerusalem. But he needs another place for them to worship. So Jeroboam starts setting up fake gods for them to worship, and things go bad fast in the northern kingdom. All of the kings of Israel, the northern kingdom, are going to be evil, wicked kings. Evil, wicked kings. And we're going to see that that kingdom is going to be destroyed pretty quickly. So let's read that commentary real quick. We see that the wisdom of Solomon is not given to his son Rehoboam. When Jeroboam, Solomon's advisor, asks for forgiveness and promises to be a faithful servant to Rehoboam, the new king does not listen to Jeroboam's wise advice and to relieve the burden of the people. Rather, in his youthful arrogance, Rehoboam wishes to assert his power and impose harsher judgments on Jeroboam and his people. The 10 tribes of the north rebel against the house of David and withdraw their support from King Rehoboam. They crowned Jeroboam as king of Israel. As the two nations progress throughout time, the northern kingdom, the bad kingdom of Israel, will begin to follow foreign gods and forget the commandments of God, forget the poor and the widows. The north will never do what is right in the eyes of the Lord, and they will be destroyed by the Assyrians in 722 BC because they do not faithful to God. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. The southern kingdom, all right, is the one does follow the warning of Moses, right? Obey and be blessed, disobey and be conquered. Throughout the history of the kingdom of Judah, they will be kings that will do what is wicked in the eyes of the Lord, but they will also be kings who are God-fearing. They'll have some good and some bad kings, all right? This nation of Judah will last all the way until 586 BC when the Babylonians will destroy it, all right? During this period, many, many prophets are going to arise to help to remind the people to turn back to God. All right, that's the job description of a prophet, to remind the people to turn back to their covenant with God. All right, we covered a lot in this lesson, but I hope you got it all. These notes are available to you, guys. Today, February 2nd, is the World Day of Prayer for Consecrated Life. I just ask that you would pray for the brothers, for me and the brothers, and all the religious in the world, that we would be faithful to our consecration to God. And that you would be praying for us, and just as we pray for you. All right? Have a great day, guys. I'm sure your teachers will be giving you guys a little bit more now. All right? Have a great day. Bye.